question about that. All right, we're going to play a little game that we affectionately call "Who's Better." Who's better? All right, so we got 5 topics. Who's better? We'll go right down the list. Brock Purdy, Jalen Hurts. Who's better?
I would say that Jalen Hurts is better, and I think that he is the MVP odds-on favorite right now because he has more quality wins, and his numbers in crunch time have been absolutely sensational. When you think about the context of what Hurts has been able to do, I understand that he hasn't done a good job of playing quality, efficient, smart football when ahead. But when I factor in the MVP conversation, like, what is that team without that individual player? If you take Jalen Hurts away from the Philadelphia Eagles and Marcus Mariota is their starter, they're awful. We've seen Kyle Shanahan work his magic with quarterbacks, and I think that the Niners would still be a quality team. Jalen Hurts has won 8 straight games when trailing by double digits. He has 13 straight wins against teams with a winning record. He has 7 straight wins when trailing by 10 plus points. Remember that graphic a couple of weeks ago of Shanahan not being able to come back when trailing in the fourth quarter? Hurts has been able to do that. He gave Patrick Mahomes his first home loss in November or December in the last 5 years. Then he outdueled Josh Allen in the rain. When he's been trailing this year, 10 touchdowns, 0 picks, a passer rating of 118, 4 game-winning drives, and when losing, a quarterback rating of 121.9. But then you look at Brock Purdy's numbers. He is number 1 in completion percentage, yards per attempt, QBR, quarterback rating, air yards per attempt, and he's 8th in yards for a run-heavy offense. So, Larry, I've been with you from the jump, and I think that you and I were so early on saying that this is not a fluke. Brock Purdy is for real. I think that these two quarterbacks are closely tied. I'd say slightly Jalen Hurts because he plays better and has more quality wins this year. But please, can people stop disrespecting Purdy? Because what he's been able to do, absolutely special.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, I was talking to Jody Mack earlier this week, and he does radio and on IP in Philly and CBS Sports Radio, and I wanted to have him on just because he's got a great pulse of the fans. I said, "What's the talk in Philly?" And he's like, "The talk in Philly on the shows that I'm doing and hosting is that the fans don't believe that Brock Purdy can come to Philadelphia and beat this Eagle team and Jalen Hurts at the Link. That." They view that the fans, at least, view Brock Purdy. They have respect for McCaffrey. They have respect for the Niners' weapons. They got respect for Shanahan and the Niners' defense, but they don't really have a healthy dose of respect for Brock Purdy. And I even asked Brock Purdy yesterday at the press conference. I'm like, the talk that I'm hearing is that the people in Philly think you're the weak link. And he's like, oh, well, and I was partially trying to poke him to motivate him. But I also, that was the response I got when I asked people about Brock Purdy. What do you get? You also talk to a bunch of fans and are pretty tied into the Eagle fans. Is that just, is that Jody Mack just, kind of throwing that out there? Or do you think that there's something to that the Eagle fans don't have a full dose of respect for Purdy?
Yeah, and look, I know a lot of people are ripping me in the comment section saying, how are you going to play both sides? Look, I'm an NFL analyst at the end of the day, and my job is to cover the NFL. I cover all 32 teams, and then I have channels on the Eagles and Niners, reaching millions of people per month. So I think that I'm doing a pretty good job. You can call me whatever you want. That's fine. I honestly think that with me watching every single snap this year, Philadelphia and San Francisco, there might not be a better person to break this game down and to preview it than me. And I think that me covering the Niners from Philly actually gives me an advantage of covering this team from a non-biased perspective because I think that my analysis has been really good because I'm not emotionally tied to the team. Do I want them to do well? Yes. And if I had a blast covering this team the last 3 years, no doubt. But going back to your question, I've had so many texts from my Philadelphia friends saying, Brock Purdy ain't coming into Philadelphia and winning this game. I took the Niners with Brock Purdy as a rookie to go into Philadelphia last year to win the NFC Championship game. And I continue to tell everybody that I have Philadelphia ties with, stop sleeping on Purdy. He might not be 6'6". He might not be 240. He might not have a bazooka for an arm. But I just went through all of the numbers that Brock Purdy's been able to put up this year. Those are statistical numbers. And then you come down to the eye test. He has a great pocket feel and pocket mobility. He throws with improvisation. He's able to extend plays with his legs. He's explosive with his short area quickness. When the pocket breaks down, his eyes don't revert down. They stay up so that he can make a throw. Accuracy, layering balls in, touch, feel. He has all of that. Those are big boy quarterback attributes that Brock Purdy has. And if there is one team in the NFL that I like more than any team in the National Football League that can compete with Philadelphia with their talent and go into Philadelphia to win, it's San Francisco, and Brock Purdy is a big part of that.
All right, so we're going who's better. You're going Hurts over Purdy. Now let's go to wide receivers. Debo and Ayuk, A.J. Brown, and Devontae Smith. Who's better?
Can I go wash here? Or do I have to pick one side?
Get off the freaking fence, Chase.
Look, so first of all, and I've said this since last year, I think that Brandon Ayuk is the Niners' best wide receiver. I think that he's better than Deebo Samuel. I think that Deebo Samuel is an all-world player and an all-world weapon and Swiss Army knife who is a game changer. But when it comes down to being a great route runner, having more reliable hands, diversity to the route tree, being a threat from goal line to goal line, not just in the red zone like sometimes Deebo is as a running back or on an end around, Brandon Ayuk is better. So let's say that Brandon Ayuk is the Niners' number one. Is he better than A.J. Brown? I don't think so. A.J. Brown is number 2 in receiving yards this year. He had 1,000 yards receiving going into that Chiefs game a couple of weeks ago. And then Devontae Smith, is he a better wide receiver than Deebo Samuel? I'd give the slight edge to Devontae Smith, who I think would be a number 1 on a lot of teams. But when I talk about this matchup being so close with so many premium players and this game being littered with future Hall of Famers, all pros and Pro Bowlers, both teams are very equal in that. But I like, as a pure wide receiver tandem, I like Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown slightly more than Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, but it's extremely close. It's on the margins. And I think Deebo being more of that chess piece is what gives the edge to Philadelphia because he's such a unique weapon.
If you add in Juwan Jennings and Julio Jones, does it sway you in any direction?
Yeah, maybe go Niners. And I think the people have just slept on how good Juwan Jennings has been on the money downs, 3rd and 4th downs. Really, since 2021, Juwan Jennings has been an underrated weapon for this Niners team who consistently comes up massively in the guts of the game, critical moments of the game, and moving the chains. How about that play that he made against Seattle last week? I mean, Mike Tirico's like, and he's not going to get there. And then Chris Collinsworth's like, oh, ho, ho. Like, for him to be able to drag those couple of defenders to move the chains, that was a special play. And Juwan Jennings, I think that he's going to go somewhere else after this year because the team's going to want to pay him, and that'll be a big loss for the Niners.
So you got Hurts better than Purdy. You got A.J. Brown and Devontae better than Deebo and Ayuk. I would probably lean towards Hurts and Brown and Smith. I'm probably in agreement. All right, let's go to number 3. Javon Hargrave and the man who replaced him, Jalen Carter.
I'll go Hargrave right now just because he's the more experienced player. But from a team building standpoint, I think Philadelphia made the right move. Javon Hargrave signed a 4-year, $84 million contract, and the Eagles got a player who I think is going to be better down the road, maybe not right now, who's better against the run than Hargrave is, and isn't as good at rushing the quarterback, but will be for a fraction of the price. But Hargrave right now is the better player than Jalen Carter.
Okay. I think Carter's really, really special, but I think Hargrave's going to play better in this game. Now he's switched sides in this rivalry. Of course, he signed with the Niners as a free agent. He's got 6 sacks already this year. He's been absolutely on fire the last 3 weeks. The D-line's produced 15 sacks in the last 3 weeks. Fred Warner said, man, I'm happy he's on our side and not their side this time around. He's been very disruptive. He said a few of his former teammates have reached out, but there won't be a lot of talk in the pregame. He says, they know me like I know them. We went at it for 3 years in practice. I know what to do against them. I guess they know what to do against me. So
he had 13 sacks last year as a defense, or 11 sacks,
yeah.
excuse me, as a defensive tackle last year. Like, that's almost unheard of.
I know. He's special. All right. Defensive ends. Bosa and Chase Young, Sweat and Reddick. I know Bosa and Chase Young have bigger names, but Sweat has been incredible. Reddick knocked Purdy out last year. He's emerged as a great player. He was not a great player in Arizona. He's gotten nothing but better and better and better. Who's the better DN tandem?
I'll go Nick Bosa and Chase Young by the slightest bit. Hassan Reddick has actually been one of the best edge rushers as far as sack totals go over the last 3-4 years. This year, he's going to reach double-digit sacks if he stays healthy. That is 4 consecutive years of 10-plus sacks. And Josh Sweat is a player who not a lot of people nationally know about, but he's top 5 in quarterback pressures. He can really get after the quarterback. And as far as pass rush win rate, him and Reddick have been 2 of the best. But I think that Chase Young, combined with Nick Bosa, the unique physical specimens that they are, and the fact that since that Chase Young trade, the Niners have had 15 sacks in the last 3 games, I just think that his impact in freeing up everybody else along that defensive line allows me to side with Chase Young and Nick Bosa. But man, that is close.
These are all very, very close. So I would agree. We're in agreement here. Bosa and Chase Young, I would give a slight edge. But Sweat is real, and Reddick is getting nothing but better every time I see him.
Sweat and Reddick, by the way, number 1 and number 2 in the NFL in pressures in the 4th quarter. So look out for that on Sunday.
That's a good stat. All right, so we got 2 in the Eagles category, 2 in the Niner category. We'll finish it up with this one. Who's better, Kyle Shanahan or Nick Sirianni?
I'm going to go Nick Sirianni here. And this might be very unpopular among a lot of people, but I think that Sirianni's ability to have an overarching view of the entire team helps him manage the game. And I think that his game management is better than Kyle Shanahan. I don't like Shanahan's lack of aggressiveness in going for it in 3rd and 4th and shorts, the play calls and the overall decisions, especially when they're on the opposition side of the field. Whereas I love Sirianni's aggressiveness there. I think in those play calls, Philadelphia has the edge because of the brotherly shove being such an efficient play. And we know that Kyle Shanahan has a track record of losing and letting a lot of these large leads slip away. Whereas Nick Sirianni has a track record of his teams being able to come back. Now, they're 2 completely different coaches. Kyle Shanahan is the whiz kid. He's the offensive genius. He is the son of Mike Shanahan. Whereas Nick Sirianni comes from a coaching family, but doesn't specialize in one side of the ball, and he's not considered a genius by any means. But the Eagles are now 10-1 now. They were 14-3 last year. And in year 1 of a rebuild, they made it to the playoffs. And I think that track record is really special for Sirianni. So slight edge Sirianni there.
All right. So you're going Sirianni. I'll go Shanahan here. I think Shanahan, I mean, they're both offensive coaches. They both, interestingly enough, both teams roll into this game averaging exactly the same number of points per game. Tied for 3rd in the NFL, 28.2 points per game. But Shanahan's offense is 3rd in yards. Sirianni's offense is 9th in yards. Shanahan's rush offense is 7th in the league. Sirianni's is 8th. And Shanahan's passing offense is 8th in the league. Sirianni's is 13th. Sirianni, you could argue, has the better line. You already said the better receivers and the better quarterback. So, you know, I mean, I think most people would take CMC over Swift, but nobody thinks that Swift's a bomb either. So I think Shanahan, I'm going to go Shanahan over Sirianni, but I think it's close. I think Shanahan is a better divisor of plays. But Sirianni, I do agree with you. I think I would say that Sirianni is the better game manager. And I think that's a major factor. It's very close. I'll lean towards Shanahan. What about this? This one's the tough one because you talk to a lot of fans. More passionate fan base. Niners, Eagles.
Man, I've gotten more ruthless comments from Niner fans actually as compared to Eagles fans.
Okay.
And I think that it's just a difference in geography. Like, I'm from the Northeast. Everything is so much more intense and fast paced as compared to San Francisco. Philadelphia is very passionate and knowledgeable. So too are Niner fans. That's honestly one of the coolest things about my job is that I interact with fans who know the game and the nuances of it with both Niner fans and Eagles fans. I'd say that Eagles fans are a little bit more aggressive, but I've gotten some ruthless comments from Niner fans, and we know that the Bay Area has a history of some crazy things happening before and after games. I give respect to Niner fans too. I saw a video this past week of Eagle fans throwing like beer cans at Niner fans. And let me be clear,
I saw that too.
there is no room for that from any fan base. In fact, I think it's disgraceful for any fan base to operate like that. A lot of other fan bases, though, traveling to Philadelphia, they would keep walking. Niner fans did not back down at all. And I absolutely love that. They were throwing cans back, and you don't want to mess with people from the Bay Area. And then you, of course, factor in 5 Super Bowl championships. When the NFL was taking off in the 80s and the 90s, gaining popularity nationwide, the Niners were the cream of the crop. The Eagles were pretty bad. So they have that built-in history that I think is a little bit of a different component as compared to Eagles fans. But people just don't understand the Northeastern way of life. Like, it's just so much more intense than the West Coast.
That wraps up this edition of Who's Better.